is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
Back, we promised you it's Tolentino Tuesday, baby. Yeah. Josh Tolentino, who does an excellent job of covering the Miami Dolphins for The Athletic. And he is ready to join us. Make sure you follow him on Twitter at JCT Sports and catch his work there at The Athletic. And right now you can can you still subscribe, Josh, for $1 a month still? Is that deal still going on?
Yeah, only $1 a month, man. But what an introduction, oh.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you. You deserve it. Appreciate you taking some time on a Tuesday. I know the boys are enjoying the day off, so you are grinding with us, and we appreciate that. So after you have had a couple of days to sit back and think about this game, what are your thoughts on the Dolphins' performance?
Yeah, I mean, I think there weren't many surprising things. I mean, in terms of personnel, I guess, seeing Myles Gaskin out there in front of Jordan Howard and Matt Breida, was a little head scratching. But in terms of, I think this is much of what we expected, that, a lot of people weren't sure what Cam Newton was going to bring to the table. But, hey, he's a former MVP, and he knows how to run the ball. So if he's healthy, then those are probably things that he's going to do, and that's exactly what the Patriots did. They really let him dictate the ground game, and they ran all over the Dolphins. That's one of the biggest things in practice this week that Brian Flores says the team has to work on, is defending the run. So, but I think one telling thing is that if you're a Dolphins fan, you got to remember this year is a rebuild, but not just that. Throughout the game, I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick threw 3 interceptions, and this team was still in the game very late in the fourth quarter. That it was still within striking distance to win. So, the Dolphins were in the game essentially the entire, all 4 quarters. But they hit week 2 this week against the Buffalo Bills coming here to Miami.
102-10 is what I tell Dolphin fans the first 2 weeks of the season last year, and they lost to the Patriots 43-0 in the second week. And you just said some of the things I said yesterday, that they played like crap, and yet they still had a chance at the end, cutting it to 3. So it tells you that they're not that bad off. They actually played a terrible game and still had a shot at winning. That shows you that they're not that far away. It's just a bunch of mistakes. And I thought there's been a lot of overreaction on Ryan Fitzpatrick, because I thought, Josh, to me, 2 of the 3 interceptions aren't his fault. One, the kid falls in the first one, and the third one, they're holding Gesicki in the end zone, which doesn't even give him an opportunity to make a play on the ball. To me, I don't blame, actually, Ryan for 2 of the 3 interceptions. How do you view it?
Yeah, I wrote about that just this morning, and I really rewatched the film and looked at those 3 plays. That second interception was definitely his fault, but the other 2, you got to give him. I mean, you got to give him some room. It's the Preston Williams one that you're mentioning. Stephon Gilmore picked him off very easily because Preston fell down almost simultaneously as Ryan Fitzpatrick was letting go of the ball. So if you think about the timing of it, Preston Williams really had no chance to not just catch it, but when receivers know that it was a bad placed ball, or that there's a chance of a ball being intercepted, they kind of turn into a defensive back in that mindset. And he wasn't able to do either of those things, being on the ground because he slipped. But I think the third one is the very controversial one that had Dolphins Twitter going, was that Mike Gesicki, I mean, he was clearly held, and those officials, they had those flags sewn into their pockets because there was no DPI on the play. And I think we were going to foresee that, though, is that it wasn't just the Patriots, the Dolphins, and all 30 other teams in the NFL that were going to have early bumps to the road here week one, but also the officiating. So, but you know what? I mean, they still count as 3 interceptions, and fans' calls for Tua are only going to get louder. But Flo hushed that right away when we talked to him yesterday that Ryan Fitzpatrick is still the starting quarterback.
Let me ask you, and talking to Josh Tolentino right now from The Athletic, covering the Miami Dolphins on a daily basis, the layers to the Myles Gaskins thing, because it's interesting, right? Look, Matt Breida's a solid running back. There's no doubt about it. But let's not make him out to be Zeke Elliott or, some incredible difference maker like that. But it's funny because Myles Gaskins is running at 4.4 yards a clip. The kid played really well. That pass catching run that he had to the outside where he kept his balance and got hit, that was a phenomenal run on his part. And so all these layers to it where if you're the coach, you apparently played the best player, right? Because Gaskins apparently may have had the best camp so far. So as a coach, you're supposed to play the player that's playing the best. But then you've got the free agent guy or the trade that you made for him. And so we all assume that Breida would be the starter along with Howard. So there's so many layers to all of this because the coach is sending the right message to the locker room. Hey, the best player is going to play. And Myles Gaskins so far has been the best player. We gave him the opportunity. But yet it becomes a controversy because Breida's the guy you traded for. So how do we look at it? Because we can't assume that Breida was going to do better than 4.4 yards per carry.
Yeah, and it's not just that. I think that, considering Gaskins' performance, playing in 39 of 62 possible snaps, leading the team with 9 carries, 40 yards, the Dolphins' best of the best did not match.
Oh, we lost you there, Josh. Oh, we lost Josh. We'll call him back now and get him back on there. Josh Tolentino, by the way. And you guys can sign on. You can call him back. Call him back. It dropped. So you guys can sign up for The Athletic. It's only $1 a month if you want to enjoy it. They do a great job, great coverage, man. So we'll get Tolentino back on again. And if you want to follow Josh, he just wrote an article now where he went over the tape of the Week 1 loss. Go to JCT Sports on Twitter, at JCT Sports, and follow him there. And we'll bring Josh back on here. Josh, we lost you there on that last question. Wait a minute. We have now. All right, Josh, we lost you on that last question there. Go ahead, my man.
Yeah, my bad. I'm not sure what exactly happened there, but with you think Myles Gaskin playing ahead of Matt Breida and playing ahead of Jordan Howard, that's like what you said. That's a clear message that if you had a strong camp or if you have a strong week of practice, that hey, you're going to get the opportunity on Sunday. Myles Gaskin honestly sounded a little bit surprised, and when we were talking to him after the game, that he got that much run, that he was expecting to be in some packages, but not that many. But again, I think Chan Gailey, and it's not just with Matt Breida, it's with other people, other players on the offense. They've got to be more creative, especially if Devontae Parker is going to be injured. We're not sure his status for that hamstring. They're going to have to be way more creative because at times it looked like the offense was predictable, and they have to incorporate more tidbits on how to use, especially Matt Breida. He's one of the fastest guys in the NFL. They've got to find a way to implement him more effectively.
Josh, and on the flip side, Noah was kind of the same story. Rookie first rounder, gets a lot of play. Nick Needham, who, Josh, last year at the beginning of the season, I said, Nick, we don't need to see him anymore. That was kind of my joking line with him because he was terrible early on, preseason, early season. But then as the regular season continued, the kid just got better and better and better. And to his credit, he grew on all of us. and we all assumed that he was going to be, one of the top corners on the team. And then there was the trading deadline stuff, and people were talking about maybe trading him. That people were inquiring about him before the season started. And so now we see game one rolls around, and then Noah, who, again, had a good camp, plays ahead of Nick Needham, and Needham gets no shine whatsoever. What do we read into that?
Yeah, with Noah Igbinoghene, that one was way less surprising just because really from day one, we weren't allowed to reveal personnel in terms of, where rookies were starting and, if they were with first team, who they were practicing with. But from day one, now that we see it on the field, Noah was just one of the starting cornerbacks in practice. And obviously some of that is due to Xavier Howard missing the entire camp, being on the PUP and COVID list. So, I mean, he got extended reps because, there was opportunity in front of him. But he really shined throughout camp. And not just that, I think Nick Needham also had a poor camp at the same time. There were many times where he got burned in practice and gave up a few interceptions his way. So, in seeing Noah Igbinoghene step in front of Nick Needham on the depth chart, that wasn't extremely surprising. But I think the takeaway from it is that, hey, Nick Needham, you think about the season that he had last year, ups, downs. But you know what? Somehow he ended up leading all defensive cornerbacks with 742 snaps in 2019, and that was only in 12 games. So the message here is that, hey, the number one cornerback in terms of reps and snaps last year didn't get a single defensive snap on Sunday in New England. So I think that the message is clear that you got to be the best player in practice if you want your shot on Sunday, Thursday, whatever day that they're playing that week.
When you looked over the tape, how bad were the missed assignments for you on defense against the run specifically?
Yeah, I think really Cam Newton changed everything in that dynamic. Is that I think it was the second or third play from scrimmage, or at least when New England had their first drive, the Dolphins started with the ball. But the following possession, New England has the drive. They're running the ball at will. That second or third play, Cam Newton, you can clearly tell it's an RPO, and Kyle Van Noy, just for the slightest second, heads towards the running back, and it's less than half a second that Cam Newton is reacting. Keeps the ball, runs up the middle for a 10, 12-yard gain. And I think right there you saw in that play that it was going to be a long day for them, that if the Patriots running backs were going to be able to run the ball effectively, Cam Newton was going to have his way. And it's crazy to think, obviously, that, he had a set a new franchise record in rushes. So I think that dynamic doesn't even change this week. They've got Josh Allen, another mobile quarterback. Doesn't have that history that Cam Newton does, obviously, with being a former MVP, but Josh Allen's still a very big body and he can run the ball. He's that dual threat type. So they're going to have to learn right here on the fly of how to adjust. And, not just that, the Bills are known to run the ball a lot. So it's like a week 2 test right away. So the Dolphins, let's see what Josh Allen can do to them.
Yeah. And, it's funny because Josh, the key is make these kind of guys passers. And if you can make them passers, I think you beat them most of the time. The guys that have to depend on their athleticism, and that's Cam and Josh Allen, guys like that, they have to actually have their legs involved in the game. And so when you look at missed assignments, were there a couple of guys that stood out to you that were really struggling with the scheme?
You know what? You look at Jerome Baker, and obviously he had a phenomenal day. Career high 16 tackles. That's very good for just a third-year player. But when you look at the mistakes that he made, a lot of those tackles are because that he was late to the action on the play. I mean, there were a couple times where he got burned in coverage, but not just that. I think you think to the New England's last scoring drive. It's only a 3-point game, And considering that if the Dolphins defense is able to make a stop here, to limit them to 3 points, to, limit them to no points at all, then Ryan Fitzpatrick gets the ball back with a chance to not only drive the field, but win, with it only being a 3-point deficit. And on that final drive New England had, Jerome Baker had 2 huge penalties. One occurred in the red zone, so you can't, really be mad at that in terms of the distance. But he had a late hit. I mean, that's really unacceptable, and when, especially that late in the game. So I think Jerome Baker is one that needs to clean it up. But if you look on the other side, I think the positive that if you're going to take away from if you're a Dolphins fan is that the offensive line, one of the worst groups in the NFL last year in terms of what they allowed with sacks and, what they didn't get in rushing yards. They looked pretty good. I mean, the Dolphins got to run the ball better, but they only gave up 1 sack, and, they've got 2 rookies on that offensive line. So a good step to look at moving forward.
Yeah, and, the whole thing about the Laramie Tunsil thing was obviously a sore point for a lot of Dolphin fans, because some fans, like myself, I didn't mind the trade, because once they offer you that kind of a stupid trade, you have to take it. And if your front office is any good, you've got 3 monster picks. You better hit at least on 2 of those 3, and you'll be better off without Tunsil, because you would have hit on 2 really good players. Well, so far you got 1. You replaced him in Austin Jackson. And if you can find another one out of those other 2 picks, and I'm not saying Austin Jackson's successful after 1 game, but I'm just saying if Austin plays like this, and, then you'll be all right. I have no problem with that. But Austin is one of those topics this year, Josh, that people are looking at. So on that line, it was important to see the left tackle play well.
Yeah, and when you think about what the Patriots bring defensively, they're still a very good defensive team, but they're obviously missing some key pieces with opt-outs and, losing guys in free agency in terms of, Landon Roberts and Kyle Van Noy to the to the Dolphins. But while they weren't the same defense, again, Austin Jackson, Solomon Kidney there on the right guard, they pretty much held their own. There were a couple times, maybe 1 or 2 times, where Solomon was blown up a little bit on the play, but for the most part, they held their blocks. And but when you have more experienced pass rushers, especially on those edges, they've got Jesse Davis there on that right tackle slide, on that right side playing tackle. I think they're going to get exposed a little bit more, because I don't think Jesse Davis is the clear answer on that side. He's the most experienced guy on the line, but you've got Jesse Davis there on the right tackle spot, and then Austin Jackson on the left side. I think we'll see more of a test once they face some bigger threats on the edges.
One of the things that I saw you write in your article was about Mark Hollins, and they kept a 6th receiver. And you kind of wonder why they kept that 6th receiver, you know what I mean? And obviously the Josh Rosen move, you figure, okay, well, they let go of him to keep that 6th receiver. And I almost feel like Mark Hollins is just a seat warmer for Callaway. If Callaway can keep his head on straight for 7 weeks, they're going to bring that guy on, because that guy has the potential of being one hell of a playmaker, for this team. So what do you think about the Mark Hollins thing, and do you feel like he is a seat warmer for Callaway?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it, you've got to consider the rest of the guys on the practice squad. Also, Kirk Merritt is an undrafted free agent rookie type that they really liked with his speed. Just got injured at the end of camp. I actually thought he was going to make the roster. But with Matt Collins, specifically with him, if that is the case, that he's going to be a placeholder until Callaway is healthy and ready and off the suspension list, well, then yesterday was a good sign of exactly what he needs to do, because his reps are going to be limited. I think he only had 3 offensive snaps, but he had 11 special team snaps. And on the Dolphins, when that Dolphins punted, it was either their first or second punt. I'm pretty sure it was the first punt of the game. Matt Collins is the right gunner, and he basically shoved a Patriots player into the returner who had already called a fair catch, and that's completely legal. You can't hit the returner when they call a fair catch if you're the kicking team, but you can definitely throw the person that you're jawing with into his teammates. So it was a very smart, showing his awareness type play, and if he continues to do that, I think he can find a way to stick around.
All right, so Josh, when you look at the way the offensive line played, I'm not one of those people. I don't want to see the kid till later on in the year, November, December. I want the line to be playing well at that time, and obviously I think they have to be mathematically ineligible, because if they're winning and they're still in playoff position, I think Flo will keep Fitz there because he's more about winning than anything else. But what do you feel about all the Tua rumblings already from people?
Yeah, I think that's got to chill a little bit. I know all the attention is going to be on Tua, and every mistake by Fitz is only going to make those calls and those shouts louder for the 5th overall pick, Tua Tagovailoa. But I think Flo he sent a clear message that Fitz is a starting quarterback. Nothing's going to change for now. And really, going into the season, I said it'd be a surprise to see him before the midpoint of the year. So I'm really expecting that if they do unleash Tua at some point this year, that it's going to be later in the season, week 14, week 15, some point in there. They've got 2 road games to end the season. So I think if Tua does make his debut this year, it'll be later in the season. And I really do think that he will. It's just a matter of time. But early on, I think Flo wants, there's a reason he brought in Chan Gailey. It was because, he obviously has this history with Fitz, and, it wasn't pretty yesterday, so they've got to clean it up from a offensive play calling standpoint. But there's a reason Chan Gailey's here, and it's to have Fitz be competitive, in these final stages of his career, and also groom Tua. So
right.
Not quite Tua time yet.
Yeah, no, and I'm glad you followed it up with grooming Tua, because I think Chan will be really good for Tua. I'm a Chan fan, man. I was the beat guy when Chan was here, and I thought he did a really good job considering the talent he had around him. I actually think he's kind of an underrated coach. I think he's a really good offensive coordinator overall. He just hasn't been blessed to be in a position where, all right, here's Kurt Warner and Torrey Holt and Azakim and Isaac Bruce and Marshall Faulk and knock yourself out and go have fun. He hasn't really been able to coach one of the great offenses out there, so he can really show his wares. But I think everywhere he's been, I think people have always played better because of him. And I don't know where you're at, where you stand with him, because some people thought because he was too old or retired or whatever, that he wasn't a good selection. I really like the selection as a transition and as a way of establishing a culture here. I think this is one of those kind of guys that you do that kind of stuff. Your thoughts on Chan?
Yeah, I got to agree with you, Owen. It's not just that. I don't think Chan Gailey is going to be here in an extremely long time in terms of, I've got to maybe cap it at 3 years.
Exactly.
But when you think of that, you think of the situation. They're in a rebuild. The AFC East is still open. I mean, they can still be competitive. And considering what they did this offseason in terms of free agents and draft picks, I mean, that was a pretty big draft class, and they spent $200 million on free agents. It's like, hey, we're here to not just rebuild, but we can be one of the most improved teams in the NFL. Let's get Chan Gailey. He has a lot of familiarity with Fitz. Fitz trusts him. And also, you look at Fitz's situation. He's got 2 years on his contract. He knows he's a placeholder for Tua. Let's use this year as, hey, let's go get this thing and see what Chan can do, while also, again, like what we mentioned, groom Tua. Because, while this might not be Tua's offensive coordinator for life, I think Chan has a lot of good steps in place to make Tua understand the ins and outs of the National Football League. So, are we saying that in week 17 when the Dolphins have a losing record? We're not sure, but I think we need to see more play calling, and I think that starts week 2 here against Buffalo.
Jakeem Grant, what happens with him? Because they've got to use him on special teams. One of the issues I had last year, Josh, with all of this was I'm a big Jakeem Grant fan, but I thought they used him too much, and because he's not a big guy, I thought he wore down a little bit. And I know he built up his body a little bit in the offseason, but I still love to see him obviously as a returner. But I don't want them to wear him out so much at wide receiver. But with the Parker injury, I'm kind of concerned that they may use him a little bit more. And again, I just don't think that that's the right thing to do. I think I would only sprinkle him in on offense occasionally and be my main weapon on special teams. What do you think is the plan with the kid?
Yeah, I kind of agree with you there, Owen. I'm really intrigued at the returner spot. While Jakeem and Preston did it all last year. Preston obviously injured his knee, tore that ACL on a punt return last year. Two guys that were inactive on Sunday were some rookies with Malcolm Perry and Lynn Bowden, and both of them, they've got some experience as returner. Malcolm Perry he actually practiced there exclusively throughout camp. And Lynn Bowden, man, if you look back at his highlight tape from Kentucky, man, he's got some pretty electric. He brings the juice, when it comes to the return game. He has several long returns while he was at Kentucky, at least 2 punt returns, several more kickoff returns for touchdowns. And I think that if they can incorporate him somehow, I know he's got to learn the playbook and be effective in other ways, but if they can find either one of those to be an effective returner, and that just opens up Jakeem Grant's potential so much more, because they're saving him, what we talked about, exclusively for offense, or either exclusively for special teams, whichever way you have it. So I think there's conversations to be had about that return spot, because in Jakeem Grant's only return on Sunday, it wasn't pretty, but again, he needs more reps, and I think there are other intriguing options on the roster for that spot.
All right, Josh, you wrap it up with 2 quick predictions. Dolphins, Bills, who wins?
Yeah, I think they actually come back and get a dub at home. I think they're going to look at the film hard, and I think with the Bills, it's way more predictable in terms of what they're going to do. New England, there were just so many questions about, hey, they don't have a lot of receivers. Julian Edelman's only the only proven guy. Is Cam going to run the ball? I mean, the way they had the read film leading up to last week's game, man, if I was a player, I would have hated my homework. They had to watch Tom Brady and Cam Newton, and also kind of incorporate what's going to happen on Sunday. Well, it was more of Cam Newton's old days in Carolina, and less of the Tom Brady-led offense, despite the system, Sunday afternoon in New England. So when you look at the Bills, it's pretty clear what they're going to do. They're going to run the ball up their throat, and they're going to say, hey, we're going to keep running until you can stop us. So I think that the Dolphins just have to be prepared to stop the run. And not just that, we didn't get to see a lot of Xavier Howard, Byron Jones on Sunday. The Dolphins were pretty cautious with Xavier's workload, but he's going to continue to build that up, and we've got to see them face some real competition. So, they've got some weapons on the outside, but I think that's the main thing, is that let's see if the Dolphins can stop the run, and I think they'll show up on Sunday.
All right, so we'll put you in the most uncomfortable position now. The Heat, baby, tonight against the Celtics. Who wins, and who wins the series? Come on, Josh.
Yeah, you know what? I'm actually going with the Heat. I think that not just tonight, but I'm really riding them. I like how Spo, obviously a fellow Filipino, is bringing them up right now. I mean, he's getting the best out of them. The Bam Adebayo pick, I mean, I was, his first few stints in the league, you really were kind of questioning what was going on in his head, and, wondering if he was going to develop into, this kind of superstar player, not superstar, but a big-time role player. And, man, he's really playing the best basketball of his life right now. It's like he gets every rebound, and there'll be 4 jerseys surrounding him, and he somehow gets the ball. And, another guy that I'm really high on is Tyler Hero. So I mean, that kid's really special, and I think he's going to be one of the special players in this league. So, hopefully that gets me some clout in the Miami area. I'm going with the Heat.
There you go. You got to roll. You got to roll with the Heat, baby, and you got to roll with Josh Tolentino. Make sure you catch his work over at The Athletic. Subscribe now. Take advantage. $1 a month and $12 for an entire year. Great coverage locally, nationally. Follow him on Twitter, JCT Sports on Twitter. It's a Tolentino Tuesday, baby. Josh, thank you, my brother. Enjoy your day off.
Hey, Big O, I appreciate you. At some point this season will be Tolentino Tua Tuesday, talking after his debut. So
that's right.
Looking forward to the rest of the season, O.
Damn right. Me too, brother. You be good out there, man. Thank you.
All right, take care.
You got it. There you go. Josh Tolentino. It's a Tolentino Tuesday. Love it. There you go. So we get Tolentino on Tuesdays. It's a beautiful thing.